Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Juma Mubarak. I'd just like to give a few announcements. Quran, Tajweed, and reading classes for sisters will begin August 15th. There are several options to choose from depending on your reading level. Details are available from the main office. This session is with instructor Sister Zainab. The new session for Sunday morning Quran memorization with Dr. Ibtisam will begin August 27th. On the first and third Thursday of each month, ICNA Sisters Wing will have a tafsir class in Urdu from 11 a.m. to 12 noon in the downstairs right side room. The Heart, Mind, and Soul Society, the meeting place for seniors, will be having their next event on Sunday, August 13th from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And as we look forward to the most blessed days of Dhul Hijjah, ISOC and ICNA will be hosting a special talk on the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam. This will be on Saturday, August 19th in the conference hall at 1:30 p.m. Guest speaker will be Sister Alia Dada. This event is for sisters only. Tonight, MYG will be hosting Ustad Yusha Evans, planned to be here by 7:45 p.m. to pray Maghrib. The talk will begin immediately after. He will be discussing the history of Palestine. The talk will take place in the MYG room. Also, dinner will be served. Stop by Rahma Cafe to enjoy your favorite snacks and meals. ISOC is pleased to welcome our guest Khatib, Sheikh Mustafa Omar. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. صدق الله العظيم. أما بعد. We begin by praising Allah, our Creator. We thank Him for everything He's given us. We ask for His help and guidance in every step we make in this path of life. And we ask Allah for forgiveness for all the mistakes that we've made throughout our lives. As Muslims, we declare that nobody deserves to be worshipped in any way, shape, or form besides Allah, the one and only true God. And we bear witness that Muhammad was the last and final prophet and messenger that has been sent for the guidance of all people until the end of time. Respected brothers and sisters, today we live in a world and we live in a situation as Muslims in America where we have to be careful of what we say. And we have to be careful in the way in which we say certain things, because the eye of criticism is on us. And most of us are conscious and aware of this reality that we're in. We have to be careful in how we speak and the things that we say on the public sphere. But there's something that we need to always remember, is that when we're talking about our mouths, when we're talking about the words that we speak, it's not only on a public level that we need to be careful, but even on the private level, even on the level where no one might take our words in a negative way to try and hold them against us. But we remember that our Creator, Allah, is watching and He knows each and every single word that we say. And if you think about it from that perspective, if we want to be the best Muslims we can be, and inshallah we all want to be the best Muslims we can be, we want to be the best servants of Allah we can be, then we need to be very careful about the words that we speak, making sure that we don't say anything which would displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see, when someone wants to be in good health, they want to be in shape, they want to live, to try and make their body a little bit healthier, they watch out for those foods and those things, or those habits that are actually detrimental to their health, that will cause a problem, and they're a little bit more aware of that. And as Muslims, we want to be the best Muslims we can be. So we look out for what type of sins that are detrimental, that will prevent us or take us further and further away from paradise, further and further away from Allah. And if we think about all those sins that are there, there's drinking, and there's adultery, and there's gambling, and there's eating pork, and these things most Muslims, alhamdulillah, are usually able to keep themselves away from. These are not very prominent sins across the Muslim world, across the Muslims in the entire world, nor historically. Most Muslims have avoided drinking alcohol. Most Muslims have avoided pork. Most Muslims have avoided adultery, alhamdulillah. But there are certain sins that many Muslims, in fact many human beings, they fall into and they don't realize it. Or they realize it but they can't control themselves. And that's because the sin is so easy to commit, it takes such little effort. And those sins usually revolve around the tongue. They revolve around the words that we speak. And if we were to take stock of all the different things and all the different types of statements we can make, perhaps one of the most prevalent things that people engage in, which is displeasing to Allah, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates for us to do, is what's called gossiping or backbiting. And this is something that every single person gets involved in pretty much, unfortunately. Almost, if you ask yourself, when's the last time you engaged in talking bad about someone, gossiping about someone? You may look back and you say, you know what? I did it last month, or I did it last week, or in fact I did it right before I came this morning to Jummah prayer. So this is something which is extremely prevalent, and as Muslims we need to reflect upon this. We need to analyze this as an issue, as a problem that we need to work on as individual Muslims. and as a community. So the first thing we do is we go back to the Quran. And we see what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us regarding this. He says in Surah Al-Hujurat, He says, وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا. Do not talk ill of one another behind their backs, meaning in their absence, when they're not present. Don't talk bad about one another. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, and He says, if you do that, would you like to eat the flesh of your dead brother or sister? Meaning when you talk bad about somebody else, it's as if that person has died, their meta, their carry-on, their body is dead, and you're going and eating from their back when they cannot even see what's going on. It's cannibalism. Something disgusting, repulsive for the average human being. Nobody would want to eat another person, or very few people. Right? So this is something that's repulsive, and Allah is telling us when you talk bad about someone, it's as if you're going and eating them, right, behind their back. That's how bad this thing is. But then we have to go back and say, okay, what is the definition of gossip, ghiba, or backbiting? We could translate it both ways. What is the definition of this? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, he defined when you're talking bad about other people in their absence. He said it is to mention something about another person in their absence that they would dislike if they heard it. Simple as that. When you say something about someone else and they're not present, and if someone told them that this is what Mustafa said, this is what Aisha said, this is what Maryam said, they would be very upset. I can't believe they said something like that. I can't believe they talked about me like that. Especially not to my face. They did it in my absence. I wasn't even there. So I could defend myself. I could say something. This is the definition of backbiting or gossiping. It's called ghiba. This is something that's very dangerous. And it's something that many of us fall into again and again and again, no matter how hard we try. We keep on, it's a recurring sin. And we have to be extra cautious. So just if you think that you haven't engaged in it, if you think that you're not really doing it, let's look at some examples of exactly how it works. Not to teach you how to, it's not a tutorial on how to backbite people, but it's to see yourself in the mirror. And for me to see myself in the mirror, to see, do I make statements like that? So Imam al-Ghazali, he iterated different categories of people who backbite, and he gave examples. So I'm going to adjust these examples. So he says, when you talk about someone's body or their clothing, you're engaging in gossiping or backbiting about them. So if you say that Muhammad is short because he happens to be shorter than other people, and you're on the basketball court and you're saying, man, he's so short, he can't even jump up, he's never going to be able to make a shot, you are backbiting him when you're saying that in their absence, and he would dislike it if he heard it, even if he's short. You say that Aisha is fat, and if she heard that, she would dislike it, obviously, because you're making fun of her. If you say that so-and-so is afflicted by some illness, he's got this illness and it's an incurable illness, and you're making fun of that person, then that's considered to be gossiping. If you say that someone is dark-skinned, or light-skinned, or is too pale, in addition to being racist, you're actually engaging in gossiping about this person. When you talk about people's physical characteristics, that's exactly what we're talking about. When you talk about their clothing, if you say their clothing is too tight, or it's too dark, or it's not color-coded, or her hijab looks like it's from the 70s, or her abaya is like something that was made 20 years ago, it's out of fashion, all of these things entail that you're talking bad about the person. You fall into the category of prohibition. When you talk about someone's actions, you're on the basketball court and you say, man, Ahmed, man, he can't jump. If his life depended on it, he couldn't shoot a free throw. If you are talking about someone and they're driving and you say, man, every time we drive with this person as if they're blind, I think they drive with their eyes closed. They may not be the best driver, but when you're saying that about the person, you're talking bad about them, and if they heard what you were saying, they would be affected by it. They wouldn't like it. Even if the person's a bad driver, you saying that is making fun of them. When you talk about someone's character, and this person is a miser, he's so cheap, every time there's a masjid fundraiser, he doesn't donate $1, and he drives a Mercedes, right? That's still considered backbiting, even if it's true. You say someone is arrogant. You say someone is lazy, they don't want to work, they want to get a job. All of these things describing actions about people is still considered to be a form of backbiting. One time, this authentic hadith, one time Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, she was inside the house of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Or she was in her own house, he was inside her house, and someone else came to visit. And when the lady left, Aisha made a gesture like this. And the gesture indicated that, man, what a short woman. Like that, I've never seen such a shorty, girl in my life. So she was making fun of her through a gesture. She didn't say a word. And the Prophet ﷺ looked at her and said, "Oh Aisha, you've just engaged in backbiting. You've just engaged in gossiping about this woman because of your gesture." She didn't even say a word. She didn't say a thing. And is considered to be gossiping about the person. And we do this often. Without saying a word, someone says something that you find ridiculous, you look at your friend and you go, just a little glance, just you look at your friend the other way, like eye to eye, they're like, basically what you're saying is, this person's so ridiculous, I can't believe they made this statement, what a foolish person. And you get a joke out of it. That's considered to be gossiping or backbiting about that person. And we're held accountable for that. That's what the Prophet ﷺ was indicating. So if you see that, if you understand that, then many of us have engaged in this. And we need to be very careful. We need to be cautious. And one of the ways to guard ourselves is to understand the wisdom behind why Allah has prohibited this for us. See, oftentimes as we teach Islam, so you got to pray. And if somebody asks why, so well, Allah said so. You say, we got to fast. Well, what's the reason behind that? Allah said so. You got to give charity. Well, what's the reason we got to give 2.5%? Allah said so. The thing is, that's not the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us. He tells us a wisdom behind why we pray in the Quran. He tells us the wisdom behind why we fast. He tells us the wisdom behind why we give in charity. When we teach a little bit more about the wisdom behind why we're supposed to be doing what we're doing, it increases our faith. And it increases our pride, the positive pride in Islam. And it makes us understand that what we're refraining from is good for us, it's good for society, it's good for community. So what's the wisdom behind not talking bad about other people? There's immense wisdom. And it can be read in by analyzing the Quran and analyzing the statements of the Prophet ﷺ. So let's take a look at one of these statements. This is an authentic hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the blood, the property, and the honor of a Muslim cannot be violated. They're sacred and they cannot be violated by another Muslim. What does that mean? The blood, the property, and the honor of a person. What is the blood of a person? I mean, don't kill somebody else, don't harm them, don't punch them. There's no justification for you to do that. So you don't harm somebody else physically. Almost everyone in the world understands this part. You don't unjustly go and violate somebody's physical, body, right? By hitting them or punching them or killing them. Then it says, the property of a person is inviolable. Almost everyone in the world understands that. Don't steal from other people. Somebody leaves their phone in the masjid, you don't take it and, because you wanted a phone, you go and take it from somebody else. Everyone, every law code pretty much in the whole world, they all understand this. But then the last part, it says the honor of a person is sacred and should not be violated. Now this concept of honor is almost missing from many societies. Some societies, they have extreme forms of honor. And some other societies, they have no concept of honor left in their society. And I think if we had to categorize our society, we would be one on this side, where we've lost this sense of honor. Some societies like Japan, they have like this idea of honor. Somebody gets insulted or something, samurai will stab himself. Someone loses money in the stock market, they'll jump off a, skyscraper and kill themselves. But in our society, the concept of honor is on the opposite spectrum, where people don't have it. It's more about, it's my right, I can say what I want, I have freedom of speech, I can insult your mother, I can insult your father, I'm going to insult your little children, I'm going to say whatever I want to say, and I have the right to do it, and no one can stop me. The idea of honor is going away from our society. And when you read into this hadith, when you read into the statement of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, we see the wisdom behind it. Is that when the honor becomes sacred, the honor of a person is considered inviolable, you don't go around randomly insulting other people. You don't go around randomly talking bad about other people. What kind of society are you going to have when everyone goes and insults their mother and their brother and their sister and everyone just insults everybody else? You're going to have a very unstable society, a society that has no respect for anybody else. And that's exactly the wisdom behind the prohibition on gossiping and backbiting. It's going to create a better society. That's what it's supposed to be doing, because it results in everyone showing respect towards another person. Even if you have this feeling in your heart, you don't have to say it out loud. If Ahmed can't jump on the basketball court, you can go and tell him and give him some advice and say, hey, you know what? Maybe you should take some lessons. Maybe you should do some extra work. And if he can't, fine, don't pick him next time. But you don't have to go and insult him. You don't have to insult her for the clothing that she's wearing. So these type of things we need to understand. When we see the wisdom behind it, then we go back and you say, well, why do people still engage in it? Well, there's a few misconceptions. The first misconception is, you say, well, what if I'm just speaking the truth, man? The guy's cheap. He doesn't donate. He never donates to any Islamic cause, any good cause, any charitable cause. That's just the reality. I'm telling the truth. Well, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, authentic hadith, he was there, and when the Prophet, peace be upon him, he said that this is the definition of backbiting. Talking about someone in their absence, and they heard it, they would dislike it. So he said, Messenger of Allah, I got a question. What if I'm telling the truth? I'm speaking the truth, man. Ahmed can't jump on the basketball court, and Aisha, her hijab, her abaya, her jilbab is from the 70s. It's totally outdated. What if I'm telling the truth about them? What did the Prophet ﷺ respond? He said, if you're speaking the truth, then you are backbiting or gossiping. That's exactly the definition. And if you're lying, then you're slandering. And it's a double sin, because you're insulting them and you're lying. So the idea of insulting, backbiting, gossiping, it doesn't matter if it's true or false. It's talking about when it's true. You don't have to say it. You don't have to insult someone even if it's true. And alhamdulillah, we have that clarified because the companion asked the question for us. But there are other causes why people do it. Why do people engage in backbiting so much? Why is it so prevalent? Well, one of the reasons is because people love stories. We love to hear stories. And when someone starts talking about, did you hear what happened? You know, Aisha, keep using Aisha, Khadija, Khadija, her husband, they got into a fight last week, and I heard that she said this, and then he said this. So, oh really? And then what happened? And then tell me what happened. And you love the story, and then you go and you want to tell your friend, Bilal, and you say, hey Bilal, did you hear what happened? But Ahmad and Aisha and all of them, they all started doing all these things. The story continues because people like to tell stories. And stories are nice. But stories shouldn't be about insulting other people. And it shouldn't be about gossiping about other people, even if the gossip is true. It doesn't matter whether it's true or false. It's still considered the category of gossip. The second issue in this regard is that there's some peer pressure sometimes. You're in a social gathering, you're in a walima, you're in a wedding party, banquet, and you're sitting at a table and everyone starts engaging in, oh yeah, you know what, he said this to her and she said that. So, oh yeah. You get some peer pressure that say, you're the only one not participating in this story. You're the only one who's not talking in this conversation while everyone else around you is talking bad about other people. So there's a little bit pressure that, I'm not going to be the only one who sits here and not talking. Let me throw some fuel into the fire. Let me go ahead and say something about, their relationship or something along these lines. So that's where we need to be careful. Because peer pressure is a reality. This is not just peer pressure talk to middle schoolers and high schoolers. This is to adults, right? We go in social gatherings and there is peer pressure as well to go and engage in the same type of gossip that other people are engaging in. So we have to be extra careful. Another reason is envy. Sometimes you envy a person and you wish you had what they had. So you go and you backbite that person, you gossip about them to lower their status and to raise your own status. If somebody goes and buys a brand new expensive car, you say, or someone gets a raise at work, they get a job promotion, say, wow, the person just got promoted to vice president of their company. Oh yeah? Well, his son doesn't even obey him. His son doesn't even listen to him. Did you know that? What's the point? Why would you go and take something that the person should be proud of, people are happy about, saying, wow, the guy got a promotion, that's great. And you say, oh, let me insult the guy to bring his status back down. Why? Probably because deep down inside in your heart, you're envious of that person because you didn't get something like that. So you want to put that person down, and then you want to make yourself look good because you think you're better than them. And that's a hidden defect in the heart, and we need to be very, very careful about that. Now, when it comes to gossiping and backbiting, there's a few things we need to be careful about. You say, well, what if you need to warn somebody else about something? Are there any exceptions to the rule? The answer is yes. There are exceptions only on a case-by-case necessity basis. So if somebody comes to you, right, and they say, you know what, my best friend, he's about to marry, somebody else. He's about to marry Muhammad. Let's not use the name Muhammad. He's about to marry Khalid. You say, Khalid happens to be a drug dealer. And you know that Khalid's a drug dealer because he's your friend. And now they're asking you for a reference. And you say, what do you think? Is Khalid a good guy? And you go, well, I don't know. If I tell them that Khalid is a drug dealer, it's going to affect their marriage. I mean, it's definitely going to affect the marriage. But if Khalid heard me that I was saying that he's a drug dealer, he wouldn't like that. Of course he wouldn't like that, right? But does this person need to know this information? If it's going to affect their marriage directly, then yes, you need to let that person know. Do you post it on Facebook and you make a Snapchat about it and say, I wanted to let everyone know that my friend Khalid is a drug dealer? No. But do you let the person know who needs to know specifically? Absolutely. It's your responsibility to do so. But if Khalid did something in the past, he happened to have a girlfriend 10 years ago, and we don't know exactly what happened, but now this person is asking you, and Khalid has changed his life, he's made tawbah, he's a totally different person. You say, now do I need to go and tell this person exactly what he had done and everything I know about him in the past? If it's not going to directly impact his marriage, or it's not likely to impact his marriage, then no, you don't need to tell that person. And no, you don't need to share it publicly. The same thing applies in business. Somebody ripped you off and you went into business with someone and they stole your money, and now your best friend is going into business with that person. You say, well, wait a minute, let me go and warn this person. This is not considered backbiting or gossiping. But if you go and you say, you know what, I need to come up here on the minbar and make an announcement, let everyone in the whole community know that this guy stole some money from me, that's not necessary, because not everyone needs to know that, unless maybe in very exceptional circumstances. So yes, there are some exceptions to backbiting, but we need to be careful and make sure that we don't engage in those exceptions unless we have a legitimate case. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the sin. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and guide us at all times. Ameen. Astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa li sa'ilil muslimin fastaghfiruhu innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ba'd. Continuing on the topic of gossiping and backbiting. Many times people will ask after I give this khutbah, so well, what do you do? How do you ask Allah for forgiveness for this? What are you supposed to do to make up for this? Well, the first thing is just ask Allah for forgiveness. Sincerely repent to Allah and ask Him for forgiveness for everyone you've talked bad about. And the question comes up and says, should I go and tell the people that I've been talking bad about? Should I tell them that I've been talking bad about them? So you've been talking about your friend Omar. You've been backbiting him for the last 7 years. And you've been best friends for 10 years. And you decide, I'm going to stop this now. So should you go up to him and say, you know what, by the way, Omar, I just want to let you know, I know we're good friends, but I've been backbiting you for the last 7 years. And I've been saying this. What's that going to do to your relationship? It's not going to be very pretty. So Imam Nawawi, one of the great scholars of Islam, he said, if the person already knows that you are talking bad about them, then you should go and tell them and apologize to them and ask them to forgive you. But if they don't know what you were doing and nobody has informed them, then it is not a requirement. In fact, it's not even recommended that you go and tell them. You just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. And if whatever negative thing you've done, whoever you talk bad about in that company of people, you try to make up for it. So if you were saying on the basketball court that this guy can't jump and he's this and he's that, you go to the same group of people and you say, you know what, actually he's improved quite a bit, I think he's making progress. You try to undo some of the bad things that you've been saying in the same audience that you were saying those bad things about. Try to restore that person's reputation back to what it should have been had you not been talking bad about them, right? And the last thing to remember is that when it comes to smoking, we know that there's smoking and then there's secondhand smoking and then there's third-hand smoking as well. But secondhand smoking is dangerous, right? When you inhale the smoke that somebody else is coming in. So we need to realize that there's something called secondhand backbiting or secondhand gossiping. And that is if you sit there at a table or you sit there with someone and they're talking bad about other people and you say, well, I'm not saying anything. I'm okay. I'm keeping my mouth closed. But you're listening, and you're listening, and you're just kind of nodding, and you're just sitting there. You are actually technically participating in the same action without realizing. It's harmful. You get a similar type of sin. Because the Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith, he said, whoever hears a believer disgraced in front of him and does not come to his aid and he's able to do so, Allah will disgrace him on the Day of Judgment. When you're able to come to the aid of your brother or your sister, you're supposed to do it. So you have a few options. Option number one is you stop the people who are talking and you say, please don't talk bad about this person. Allah doesn't like this behavior. If you don't have the ability, you don't have the courage to do that, or whatever, for whatever reason you can't, try to change the subject so they stop engaging in it. So change the subject. If you can't even do that, you get up and you walk away and you don't be part of that gathering. You go and you shift until they start talking about something else. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the sins of our tongues. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and guide us at all times. O Allah, increase us in our faith. O Allah, help us to be patient through the challenges that we are facing nowadays. O Allah, allow us to do only that which will please you, and do not allow us to do anything which would displease you. O Allah, help us and guide us at all times. O Allah, forgive those people who have passed away. And O Allah, specifically Sister Zahida Arain's mother, Sister Razia Begum, Ahmad Abdullah, and Rami Zini. O Allah, forgive them for their sins. O Allah, grant shifa, grant cure for all those people who are going through difficulties, specifically Brother Sulaiman Mansoor, Ibrahim, Sister Saida Nafu, Sister Rabia Imran, Sister Khadija Ali, Brother Rafi, Brother Javed Siddiqui, Sister Hamida Kanani, and Brother Abdul Majid. O Allah, make it easy for them and let them get through the challenges that you're testing them with. O Allah, help us and guide us at all times and in all things we do. Ameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamun ala al-mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa qimus salam.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Staw wa'tadilu. Please make sure your line is straight, shoulder to shoulder. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين إن الذين كفروا سواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله Inshallah, two more requests for dua. Al-Hajj Muhammad Ghos passed away in Hyderabad. Please pray for his maghfirah. And also Sufia Begum, she's seriously ill. Please pray for her recovery, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant maghfirah to each and every person, a true believer who has passed away. And may Allah cure everyone who is ill and going through difficulties. Ameen. Also, a quick announcement I forgot to make is that we're here with an organization called California Islamic University. Please visit our table when you're walking outside, inshallah, if you're interested. Jazakumullah khair.